He's in his mid-50s, has 2 teenage children, owns a HDB flat, also a private property that's rented out, and $2.2 million worth of financial assets. Don't worry, later I'll show you some details. I'll also show you some learning points. But today, this entire discussion is discuss whether he has indeed enough to retire or not. Hi guys, welcome back. Let's start with this first point of owning a HDB flat and renting out the private property. Now actually I prefer the other way around, or rather I did the other way around, which is I stay in my private property and I rented out my HDB flat. Simply because when you stay in the private property, this becomes home and the HDB flat becomes rented asset. And in terms of property taxes, you realize it's a world of difference. It goes by the property annual value, and long story short, when you rent out a condo, the value is higher and you do pay a lot more in terms of property taxes. The second is that when you stay in the condo, you enjoy the facilities, correct? You're paying the conservancy charges, which could be $300 or $500 easily. Now there's also parking to factor in, and all this is okay if you get much higher rent when you rent out a condo versus a HDB flat. But as of current moment, HDB flat rentals are very strong. They are not much less than renting out a condo actually. So that reinforces I do support staying in the condo for yourself instead and renting out the HDB flat. But that's not today's main discussion. We have to answer this question. Is there enough to retire or not, correct? And whether there's enough to retire depends on a few key factors. The first is how much assets you have, because that affects retirement cash flow. The second is how much liabilities you have, whether there's property liability, whether there's car liability, that impacts your expenses. And last but not least, how much monthly expenses do you need for day-to-day living? So let's look at the asset base he has kindly shared for me to do a case study with you. He has about $350,000 in CPF OA, $280,000 in CPF SA, $206,000 in RA. So quite clearly, he's past his 55th birthday. He has $190,000 in SRS, $135,000 in fixed D, $130,000 in SSB, $180,000 in treasury bills, $100,000 in high interest account, my guess is UOB, $50,000 in Mumu for investments. I've done for many previous tutorials on Mumu's Cash Plus. You can actually check towards the end of this video or on the links above. He has also condo rental yield of $4,200. Some 5-room HDB flats are also fetching this amount of rental income already. I don't own a car and I have approximately $600,000 worth of endowment maturing in the next 5 years. Wow, this list is extensive, correct? Very difficult to digest. So let me lump them together. There is $630,000 in CPF, OA and SA. That can be cashed out once you are above the age of 55 and you have full retirement sum, which he has for this instance. Because he's mentioned he has $206,000 in RA. There's also $190,000 in SRS, which is also long-term assets, and $1.235 million worth of safe assets. That includes all the FD, T-bills, SSB, etc. etc. That means he has $2.26 million worth of financial assets. That is how this $2.26 million worth of financial assets came about. This doesn't include even his private property that is renting out, worth possibly $1.5 million, and also $600,000 in wife's CPF account. There's also no mention about cash, correct? So all in all, if I were to summarize total assets for the couple, excluding home, that could be $4.36 million. Stick with me right to the very end because later I'll share with you some learning points as well as his story, which is someone who has actually worked in a corporate career very successfully for many years. So back to the case. When I look at this list of assets, it is quite obvious he's very conservative, correct? And it seems to me that he knows how to manage money. He's financially savvy, his parking money is all over the place with different maturity periods. And that gives me a hint that he's quite financially savvy. And on this point, I have a suggestion to make that you can also use to park some of your savings. Today's sponsor, UOB Asset Management, has this new product, Cash Plus Extra. I've looked at it and this is a good cash management solution. It has one of the best short-term bond funds, United SGD Fund, anchoring the portfolio. United SGD Fund has been around for more than 20 years, and buying UOB AM Invest new Cash Plus Extra gets you this special low-cost Class B fund, which is typically intended for institutional investors with a minimum investment of $1 million. Not to mention, you can start investing with Cash Plus Extra with just $1. Right now, the projected yield is 4.1%. And do note, while it's not guaranteed, this is very well suited if you're looking for low-risk investing. For example, if you want to store some investing war chest cash, it mainly invests in instruments which are typically considered as low risk, such as treasury bills, MAS bills, and high-quality government and corporate bonds to help you earn more when the interest rates start to fall while locking in on the yields now. Currently, this portfolio also has no lock-in period, no withdrawal penalties, and no advisory fee until 31st of March. So do use my referral links below to sign up for your UOB AM Invest account today and simply deposit $1 to any portfolio to get your sign-up bonus of $10. Really any amount, $1, $10, $100, $1,000. Let you decide how much of your ang pao money that you like to put in for yourself and your own family. Right now, I'm trying out this goal-based investment portfolio from UOB AM Invest. This is a unique glide path solution depending on your declared risk profile. At the start of a 5-year target, it is more into equity, based on my risk profile, which is very aggressive. As it draws nearer to the savings target's date, it will automatically become more conservative, with the allocations towards fixed income increased. But first, recommending you to download UOB AM Invest and sign up with my UOB AM Invest link today. So let's move on to the second part of the retirement equation, is how much liabilities are on hand. Right now, there's $700,000 from a term equity loan from the private property itself. You know, when you have a private property, you can actually pledge it to the bank again to draw out cash. That is something I've covered before in this previous video, why I've borrowed $150,000 for my private property. Do know again, for HDB flats, you can't draw term equity loan. But when he has drawn out this $700,000, he has quite obviously parked it into very safe assets. So the question is, what is the loan rate for this term loan, correct? If it is previous 1.5%, it's okay. You can still make a small spread parking into T-bills and stuff. But currently, mortgage fixed rates are 3% already. So there isn't a way to make a spread from loan to guaranteed assets. You do need to get it invested into quite possibly the equity markets. Then the third part about retirement equation is how much monthly expenses is he seeing right now? This is what he has shared. He's looking at a range of around $6,000 per month. Now this $6,000, I don't know, is one person, or does it include any of the term loan costs that he's facing? Or does it include his wife as a family expense? I really don't know. For me right now, I'm spending $6,000 per month or so, and that's because I have 2 young hungry kids to feed, and I own a car and I have mortgage loan. So it depends on family situation, but let's assume that this $6,000 per month expenses is for one person. After all, he still has teenage children, and maybe also there's some income tax on the private property that he's renting out for $4,200. Do note, rental income will be part of your personal income taxes. That is something that weighs heavily, especially if you're a high income earner, because if you invest in Singapore dividend stocks, that is absolutely tax-free. Then you know, previously I've covered before OCBC Wellness Survey mentioning about different retirement lifestyle choices. For today's case, it's quite obviously he is in retirement lifestyle C, just that he doesn't own a high-end car and doesn't live in the property that he owns. So maybe he's spending on all the rest of the items over there. My assumption also is what is needed for his month-to-month expenses cannot factor in rent income. Because if you were to see that $700,000 loan, even at a 1.5% fixed rate, that will still cost $3,378 per month in terms of mortgage. So if you were to factor in conservancy charges, agent costs, etc., maybe from that private property there is no net cash outflow. Take note again, if this is refinanced in September for his case, the fixed rate will likely be around 3% range. So that will easily add $500 more in terms of mortgage expenses. That is why I'll exclude rent income and the mortgage costs from his entire retirement equation. Reasonable, correct? And maybe that's also why he left me this comment, which is that current market rate for this private property is $1.5 million. If it rises to $1.8 million, he intends to cash in on that. $1.5 to $1.8 million, That's a 20% gain. Not going to come anytime soon, I guess. But maybe it reinforces. This private property is net cash neutral, doesn't provide any rental income, and is purely held for potential capital gains. So the third part of whether there's enough for him to retire or not really depends on whether there's enough assets to consume for all the monthly expenses of right now $6,000. So let's pull up the asset base again. There is $630,000 of CPF OA plus SA. There is also $1.235 million worth of safe assets. So in total, that's $1.865 million. Wow, for this to last from now to age of his 65, chicken feed, correct? $6,000 per month can't deplete this fully, and by age 65, there's just going to be CPF Life coming out, and SRS can be consumed also. So without doing too much math, I think it's an easy conclusion that there is definitely enough for retirement right now. And in any case, if this conclusion is slightly inaccurate, then the simple solution is just simplify the lifestyle from $6,000 per month to $5,000 per month. That will ease the equation tremendously already. So let me know your thoughts and comments in the sections below. And as always, smash the like button because it's taken our team hours to prepare this presentation for you. Thank you very much. And with that, let me share with you the story of how he actually got to where he is today and what are his plans. When I quizzed him about private property, he's mentioned that it was bought on the day of the introduction of ABSD. If that is true, that would be 8th of December 2011, correct? Either that or it's 12th of January 2013. In any case, you see it's 3% or 7% ABSD. Looks quite funny right now, correct? Maybe the property agent called him down to the showroom. Hey mister, buy the property right now. Government is introducing this new cooling measure. So he bought it on that very night and was exempted. That's my guess on it. And back in 2011, he was only in his mid-40s. Which reinforces, do all your major investments when you're younger. You have time to compound things. And speaking about compounding, it requires long-term, correct? Let's pull up the chart for private residential property. You would realize that 2011 seemed to be a very good time to buy properties, correct? That is why he bought for about $1 million and right now it's worth 1.5. But there's a point I'd like to drive home. When you buy and invest in the properties, it requires you to have holding power. Because if we were to look at this chart, from 2011 to 2015, the rate of return performance on the property is actually pretty poor. That is in the red arrow over there. You need to have holding power, if not you may exit at a loss. However, if you have holding power, you can actually ride out another wave, which is this green arrow over here, from 2011 all the way to 2024. So again, make sure when you buy properties, it is comfortable on your budget. It's really a long-term investment game. He's also shared with me that some of his monies were made when he actually sold company stock options that he was awarded previously. That reinforces also, work for the right firm. Right now in today's market, a lot of tech employees make big income from stock options. I've seen many in big tech drawing $500,000, and some of my work includes helping them think through what to do with their stocks as well as their cash flow. So if you need personalized advice, look for my links below on how to engage me on a one-to-one personalized fee-based approach. Next, he's also shared that he actually came from a low average income family. He did not receive any inheritance, but likely he's going to give a big inheritance to his kids. And he was a diploma holder before upgrading to an overseas degree and working up to a managerial position. From what it seems, he's built his career well, and when he left, it was 5 figures. Hopefully, if you're looking to build income, this inspires you. Indeed, you can actually upgrade and build your career successfully. Do that for yourself and you can make enough for your families. So since he's shared his story generously, let me leave some further pointers. The first one that I thought of is maybe there's no need to pay off the property loan in September. Maybe when you are in your 70s, then yes, because you have less mental faculty. Right now, if you can manage budgets, interest costs well, do know also property mortgage interest can be netted off against property rent income. That helps in the ROI, and in addition, mortgage is actually one of the cheapest loans to leverage against. The second regards this comment that when the property goes up in value, he intends to cash in. But what happens when you actually cash in the property? You would be flush with cash, correct? And retirement equation is about income. Maybe in this case, rental income. And in this case also, maybe legacy. You can give it to your children and stuff. It's not so much about bringing more cash back into the equation. There is enough cash and safe assets already. A further point on cashing in on the property is that when you sell, it is quite likely that you can't re-enter back into the property markets without attracting ABSD. Right now, that is 20% already. So would that mean that it's not too worth to cash in on the private property? For my case, I actually chose to sell the HDB because that would free up one of the names. But if you're happy staying the HDB flat, then there's not too much value moving houses here and there. So again, think through, once you sell, rebuying, you may need to pay ABSD this time round. The third is that there seems to be a lot of safe assets and property within the entire net worth. The counter side of the argument is you have ample bandwidth to take on stocks and equity risks. These will provide you dividend income that grows above inflation. Hopefully that encourages you to take a long-term investment approach, and it relates to this previous video I have, which is what I'll do if I have $1 million. I've broken down different age groups, and the last one regards someone in the 50s. I'll suggest you can check that out also, and I'll see you there. Take care as always. Goodbye.